Blizzard have released the 9.0.5 PTR, and in it we have Valor points returning. We also have a secret crafting system in the Maw, and is Fleshcraft now the most overpowered ability in the game? Let's go. Holla ballers! What's going on? It's Preacher, and well, the Valor points have returned. Not surprising. It was one of the hotly requested things coming into the Shadowlands with all the gear changes, so kudos on Blizzard for listening. Not exactly what anybody wants, or what everyone wants, I think would be the right way to say that, but is there any loot system that appeases everybody? Absolutely not. So Valor points will be returning in patch 9.05. The PTR is live. 9.0.5, sorry. The patch right now is up on the PTR, and we did play it today. However, the Valor system currently is not yet implemented. We did run some Mythic Pluses. We noticed immediately that our currently equipped Mythic Plus items didn't have anything on them like upgrades X out of 5 or X out of 10, like you would see on PvP items and things. That wasn't there. And then we jumped, and we couldn't find a Valor point upgrader either. And then we jumped into a Mythic Plus and did not get any Valor points. So, a little confused on that. It did seem from the description that we would be able to see kind of how much Valor we get, etc, etc, so we can get an idea of the scale. Is there an efficient way of farming Valor if you just want to upgrade items, whether it be Mythic Plus 7s or something like that? So we can't figure that out just yet. But Valor points are returning, which is something to be excited about. Now, they're going to limit your upgrade capability here. So if you are somebody who has done all 15s, it will raise the cap. Similar to how PvP works with what rating you get ups the cap that you can actually upgrade items to. They're doing the same sort of thing here. The maximum you can upgrade to is 220, which has earned the ire of several players who want the absolute best gear in the game. That this will not provide that. And as well with the contrast with PvP, where PvPers can get very, very high item level and a much easier way of getting it. So it is directly going to be compared to the PvP system. I think that is a fair comparison. The huge quantity, in fact, we're so happy we released that data last week where we saw that the amount of Mythic Plus consumed in the Shadowlands, even with the addition of the Great Vault, is down to BFA levels. That's because PvP is just a much more preferable way of gearing up. Not only do you have this upgrade system already implemented from the start of Shadowlands, but of course, you can choose the items you want. Nothing really goes to waste. That is not going to be the case in Mythic Plus. So the Mythic Plus system and the Valor Point system is going to be based on the idea that, one, you overcome, which is still the biggest obstacle, getting the item you want. This has actually been my biggest grievance with the system. Not so much eventually reaching the point where there are no upgrades left for my main character in Mythic Plus, which is where I'm at now. However, the biggest issue I've had with the system is actually getting the item I want. Even if you stack the group, you tend to have a really, really low chance, given the vast reduction in drops in the dungeons, and certainly specific dungeons where you're after a specific item, to actually get the item you want. That's still a problem that Mythic Plus faces. I don't see them changing that. But this time around, if you do eventually get that item and you want to upgrade it, you can do that up to 220. Now, whether 220 is lower, I'll link the post down below, by the way. There are several cutoff points to get your item level barriers, the like ceilings to raise in order of the item levels, so you can check that yourselves. A lot of people complaining that 220 is too low, and obviously comparing it next to PvP. I think it's close. It's very close. 226... 233 is what's available in the game right now. 220 is extremely close to that while not being as high as that. There are obviously those players who would prefer it if their only gearing system was Mythic Plus. I totally get that. Having sat down, certainly with the most vocal people in this sphere, I would generally sort of defer to JB here, J.B, multiple-time MDI champion. He loves Mythic Plus. He doesn't really enjoy raiding. At least last time we spoke he didn't. Doesn't really enjoy PvP. Loves Mythic Plus and would like to focus exclusively on that piece of content and doing it as high as he possibly can. And we've seen various suggestions from them that there be another ceiling for people who are doing Mythic Plus 20, for example, which is considerably more difficult, requires considerable more coordination than a Mythic Plus 15. I mean, you see the TDPs we put out. We can pug them very, very easily. And you will always see, and I know some of you get annoyed, is that me and Finn, I'd just jump on to do some TDP conversations, and we're doing 15s and 16s in pugs, and it's totally fine. Whereas plus 20s, no, that's not going to happen. So those guys are asking, is like, hey, if we can do 20s, like we do every dungeon at a 20 or something like that, can we at least then get 226 upgrades so that we can essentially just focus on the content we enjoy and not have to go raiding? Which is what a lot of these guys do, and you'll no doubt see that a lot of the MDI this time around is a prime example of that, was chock filled with raiders. Primarily, you know, your top teams had members of Echo and Limit and Pieces, all members of these very, very high PvE raiding guilds. Now, obviously, there's some crossover of interest there in the PvE world, so it's not exclusively to that, but even in live, you are seeing that a lot of the top teams are, in fact, made up of a combination of raiders from different guilds. There are definitely some people who are only Mythic Plus focused, but there's a big combination of all. And some of those players would rather just do Mythic Plus, so it's understandable that they want access to the best gear, or at least the highest item level gear, without having to throw in this extra piece of content. Blizzard disagrees, and Blizzard will no doubt fall back on their often cited reason for this is Mythic Plus is spammable. So they are countering that with a Valor weekly cap, so you can't just endlessly farm it. There will be a weekly cap associated with the Valor system, but ultimately if you want 226 gear, you're back to relying on the Great Vault. And the Great Vault is a wonderful system. It's obviously better than what we had in BFA, etc. It is, but it's no guarantee. Let's put it that way. It's absolutely no guarantee. I've not had an item out of the Great Vault for the last 3 weeks. That's just been the nature of having a high-geared character, is eventually your opportunities run low. But I'm sure there are many people out there who very regularly do get upgrades from the Great Vault, certainly with alts, and it's a considerably better system than it was. My thoughts on this, and the people have been like, hey, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think it's too low? I think I generally don't have a problem. I really don't have a problem with people who focus on Mythic Plus and are doing things like 20s, having access to Mythic Raid quality gear. I don't see the problem with that. PvPers have it as they go up to the higher ranks, but still relying on the Great Vault. I don't like relying on the Great Vault, and I think Blizzard is very happy with what the Great Vault is. It's a casino. It's purely luck-based. So in many ways, you're restricting characters to doing a lot of weekly content, while simultaneously saying, yeah, but you're kind of doing all this just for the Great Vault to pay off, and I know I'm not the only one in the position where that just doesn't pay off regularly, and it's definitely turned me off from doing that content. You would think with my raid guild not raiding right now that I would be focused heavily into doing Mythic Plus, but it's really not worth it. I've done 10 M pluses a few times now and got nothing out of it. That's a lot of time. That's like 8 to 9 hours of playing, including breaks and traveling between the dungeons, to get nothing at all out of it. And 750 Stygia is almost, it's almost rude. It's almost rude. That's like 2 quests on a daily in the Maw. It really is not worth the reward. It's not, I mean, it's nice to get something else, but it's not great. Let's put it that way. I'm more concerned, honestly, with their idea that the Great Vault is a great system. Now, I do want to move on to something else, because the Valor Point system is great, and we'll see how it pays off, and no doubt it's going to go under changes in terms of how much we get, how much it costs to upgrade, and all those kinds of things. We do not have that information yet. Yeah, thanks, and I want to give special shout-outs to one of our viewers, Beer Please, who noticed, rather matter-of-factly, and actually drew a lot of attention to our channel this morning, who noticed that Venari in the Maw had new items. Now, I want to be absolutely clear before we get into this, guys. This is not something that was in the notes for this PTR build, so I've no doubt whatsoever that it's either something that they left in by accident or is still dramatically underway with trying to figure out exactly what the system is. Wowhead's done more digging and has found some more clues, but still the exact payoff of what this system is unknown in its details right now, okay? This really does feel like something that probably should not have been in the PTR build. Players noticed, and then we started digging. You'll actually notice it's THD from Limit who's riding around with me here to try and figure out what this was. So what is it? Venari is now selling an item called the Stygian Dowser. It's 1,500 Stygia to purchase. Now, they've changed the Maw a little bit. They still have not opened the gates up in the northern side of the Beast Warrens. We were kind of hoping they were going to add something there. But they have changed the Maw. They've added a lot more grapple points in. And now you're going to find these little green portals lying around called Stygian Nexus. Now, the Stygian Nexus is something that you can channel the Stygia Dowser into. So the Stygia Dowser is a one-time purchase for 1500 Stygia. Once you have it, it's just in your inventory. Then when you see these portals, you can go up to them and you can channel the Dowser into them. And this will give you some resources. It gives you an extremely tiny amount of Stygia, like 6 Stygia, something like that. But it will also give you a random amount of Stygia Dust and Stygia Slivers. Now, I say random. First one we did gave like 4 slivers and 2 dust. The next couple we did gave 1 sliver and 1 dust. Really small amounts for now. But again, I want to point out, just for sole clarity here, guys, I don't think this should have even been in this build. So the amount of numbers you're seeing right now really mean absolutely nothing. It's more the idea that Blizzard is implementing some sort of new crafting system. So following on from that, Wowhead went a little deeper and they found a crafting area involving rares, which allowed you to craft using the Stygia Slivers and the Stygia Dust, Stygia Bars. And then you can craft an armored husk from that. Now, their guess, and it might actually be true, is this is how you craft the Tower Shadehound. Now, I actually suspect that it may go further than that, and this might be similar to what we saw happen with Islands, where they offered items for that area, because essentially this is some extra crafting resource. If it's just for a mount, it seems kind of less interesting. There are some facts about this you should know as it works right now, but this might change. The Stygia Nexus that you find in the Maw can only be tapped by one person. It doesn't matter if you're in a group or not. It will appear. Whoever gets to it first wins. That's it. It's on currently a 5 to 7 minute respawn. It's also in very set locations. As I said, they've added in these grapple points, and we waited it out, and it absolutely respawns in the same spot. So you can camp them if you want to. Channeling into a Stygia Nexus right now does not give you Eye of the Jailer, so you can do this all day if you want. And it seems very reminiscent of benthic chests. Yes, it seems a little bit reminiscent of Nazjatar benthic chests. So anybody who played Nazjatar and went on the chest hunt, you will know that the chests were in very set locations, which means you could make a map and a loop to circle around them to collect them as efficiently as possible. And then by the time you got back to the start again, the other ones would have been respawning. Whether or not you'll stay that way, I don't know. The Stygia Dust and Stygia Slivers that you get out of these are currently not bind on pickup, so you can even post them on the auction house if you want to. So if you're somebody who's not interested in farming them all, which I know is many of you, as it stands right now, you can actually just buy these things from the AH, although you'll no doubt need to do the quest to craft the bars in order to get that bit going. But it seems to me like if it's just for a mount, fair enough. If it's just a mount thing, but it actually feels to me like this might be an opportunity for Blizzard to give people another source of collecting gear. Gear has been such a pain in the arse in the Shadowlands, and they do like coming up with systems where you can kind of just buy some not great items, like the island items were not good. They weren't high item level or anything like that, but they were stuff that you could throw to your alt and get him something to get him going. So it may be something along those lines. I don't think they're going down the benthic pearl system again, which is the biggest fear that came out of the viewers that we had today. Is like, oh my god, is this going to be another benthic armor, benthic pearl farm? I don't think it's that. What it looks to me is like an extra crafting system that may just be to craft a mount, but potentially this is a crafting system to gear up alts. I wouldn't be surprised if it was that. It may have more to it, but right now this is a system that is really intriguing. Keeping an eye on this one, because they never mentioned it. It was just something we happened to stumble upon, which makes it very interesting. Love to see your theories, guys. Wild speculation is the order of the day. As well, starting to change the Covenant abilities. Yes, they are. They're starting to change them. So I don't want to get into too much detail right now because they're doing some odd buffs. Some of them seem ridiculous. I will point out that Fleshcraft right now seems to be just insane. Fleshcraft has been changed at the moment, so it provides a 30% damage reduction while you're channeling it, and it has an inbuilt lower cooldown, which you can abuse. It bases its... You can reduce the cooldown by being near dead enemies that you've just killed. As long as you tag them and they've died and their corpses are there, if you stand near their corpses, it reduces the cooldown on your Fleshcraft. And you can game that system. We checked it today. So you can kill enemies out of melee range while your Fleshcraft is not on cooldown, right? Use it, and then run near those corpses to knock quite a few seconds off. If I think about fights like, say, Stone Legion Generals, for example, where you're constantly killing enemies, if those corpses aren't despawning, then it seems that you could get regular usage of a 30% damage reduction, as well as a 40% HP shield. That's kind of broken. That's kind of broken, and it's definitely open for some levels of abuse. But it's early days and that stuff, and I don't want to go crazy with it and start moaning and bitching. I'm just watching what's happening, and they're trying to get other people to try different covenants and spread the player base a bit wider in terms of where people are. So we'll keep our peepers on that, and we'll update you as more information comes out. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.